welcome back. I'm, of course, your fierce host, Antia Boyd. And today we're going to talk about online dating secrets that make him swipe right with Mark Rosenfeld. Hey, Mark.
Boom. It's great to be here. Great to be here, Antia. Thank you for having me again. It's always an absolute pleasure to be on your online seminars, interview things that you do.
And I love to watch your videos, and there's always so much inspiration. Like, we should talk about this. Oh my God, I shouldn't even talk about
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so before we talk about it, I just want to let the women know who you are in case they don't follow you on YouTube, but I look behind the moon.
Who is this guy anyway? Yeah, right.
Now, who is this guy with this long hair?
Yeah,
you know,
he has too much hair. What's he doing there? Why has he got Vegemite on his wall? What am I watching?
I know. Make Him Yours was founded in 2015 by Mark Rosenfeld, who's now Australia's leading dating and relationship coach for women. Mark fundamentally believes any empowered woman can successfully attract and keep a healthy relationship with a quality man, and not only by who humans' feelings genuinely loved and accepted can we hope to prevent cruelty in the world. By the way, Mark also loves cats. I love it. So where's the cat?
Well, she's lying on my jacket, so I'm not going to send the webcam in that direction because it's she's sitting on some envelopes down there.
Oh,
hey, Liz. No, she's asleep. I won't disturb her.
So cute. Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, because you also were a veterinarian in Australia, right?
I was. I retired soon after doing 8 years of study.
Yeah. But I know that you love animals very much. So
I do.
Well, Mark, I'm sure the women are sitting on the edge of their seat. Can't wait for the cutting edge content that you're going to deliver today.
I hope they are. I hope they are, because sometimes you mention the word online dating and everyone goes, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm leaving. I hate that shit. I don't want to be here. Why am I on this stupid screen? It's a bit of a beast, isn't it? You and I were talking about this before the call. And I think before we get into sort of today and a few points we'll cover, with online, you've really got to make a decision if you want to make it work for you. I can give you the tools, you know, they'll work for my clients, they'll work for you, but it's a little bit like, I guess I relate it a little bit to when I used to play poker, which is poker, if you didn't know, poker is actually a game of skill because you don't play against the house. It's one of the only games at casino where you don't play against the house. So it means that if you're actually a good player, you can make money, and people play poker professionally and earn a lot of money, although I don't meet many people who, you know, play the slot machines professionally or, you know, craps or whatever, other games. But to make money at poker, there's only a few selection of people that do it because they know what they're doing. They know to make the right bets. They always play the odds. And online's a little bit like that, is if you go in with the right tools, you'll crush it. But I think most of us, unsurprisingly, log onto our phone, just kind of sitting on the couch, just do kind of what comes naturally and sort of go a default method. And it can be super unsatisfying, very unfun, and trigger a whole bunch of shit that doesn't even get triggered by normal dating. So it can be very unpleasant if you don't sort of know or have some guidelines. So we'll get into a little bit of that today, and hopefully we'll cover that. And I think just to pre-frame this, you've got to want to sort of make the choice to say, hey, I'm going to do online. I'm going to shift my attitudes towards it and learn these things. It is hard in COVID times. And if you hated online, it was a little bit easier pre-COVID because you just go out and build a big social life. Now it's a little harder to do that. There are ways, and there's women who do it. So it's not to say it's impossible to meet men in real life now. There are certainly people doing it. So if you just hate online so damn much, just like, I want nothing to do with it, I just hate it so much, you can find a way to meet men in person. But this interview is going to be for you if you really want to say, hey, I want to make online work for me, even if it's just for the next 3 to 6 months before things open up again. And I want to have fun doing it.
I love that, you know, and I mean, of course, if you watch this video, even if it's just your last shot, like watching Mark's skill techniques, right, is really like a good way to give it a last shot and really like, don't leave anything on the table, ladies, you know, like say, I tried it all.
I was chatting with a client about this yesterday, and she's like, Mark, she's a new client. She's like, Mark, I've been online so much. I've been on like 150 dates, and I'm just so sick of it. And the straw broke on the camel's back on the weekend when I was chatting to this guy, and we only just started chatting, and I was saying I was off playing ball today, and he shows up at the courts. this creepy guy that I'd never even given my number to, like, I didn't say which court. She's like, he must have guessed which court. He shows up there and she actually broke into tears on the call with me. And I said to her, this goes a lot deeper than just a creepy guy sort of showing up at the courts, doesn't it? And she was like, yeah, it does. And so she's had what we sort of dug in and found, where she's had, 150, 200 experiences of misusing online dating, doing it the wrong way, and getting her shit triggered. And she actually said to me, all right, Mark, I'm going to give it one more month. I'm like, no, I don't want you to give it one more month right now. I want you to take a break because I need you to reset. We need to clear some of that old energy out. And if you're going to get back in and do it properly, there needs to be a bit of a space there. So if you're just at that point where you're really, really burned out, I always recommend taking some space from it first, because you've got to come back a new sort of person with new attitudes to it, a new approach. All the stuff has to be new. Or if you're already exhausted and feeling very burnt out, you get off it for a little bit, because you need to reset before you apply what we're going to talk about today.
And that's, of course, especially true if you're like on all dating websites, right? And so you're you're terrified. You open up all the inboxes like Harmony and Bumble and everything, in Hinge.
It's so easy to dislike online dating for so many reasons. But we are going to share some stuff. I'm going to share some stuff here about what you can do to do it right today. Some of this stuff comes from my book, and I think Antia is going to give you a free chapter at the end of this call as well. Other stuff's not in the book. It's even newer stuff. I think the biggest thing, do you want to go into some stuff, Antia?
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Let's roll, right?
Yeah, let's roll. So I think one of the biggest things to start out with online is so often we log into online by default. And by default, I mean, we're kind of sitting there going, I want to meet someone. I haven't met anyone good lately. Maybe I'll just log in online and see who's there. God, this is so annoying. Swipe. Oh, he's hot. Okay, maybe I'll swipe. Oh, the last three guys didn't respond. And we log in that state. We're like lying back on the couch, kind of down, don't really want to be there. And I look at it as like, if you went to a bar, would you ever bring that energy in?
Yeah.
Not in a million years. If your friend invites you out to the bar for her birthday and you're not feeling great, you either do one or two things. You either give your friend a call and say, babe, honestly, I'd love to get out, but I'm just not in the state tonight. I don't want to be that person. Or you give yourself a slap. You're like, all right, it's Sarah's fucking birthday. I'm getting out there. I'm going to put on my socialites for an hour. I'm going to make an appearance. And then I might head home early, just depending how I'm vibing. But you wouldn't go out there and kind of be the mopey mope with the mopey attitudes. Yet we do that all the time online. And we wonder why it so often gets reciprocated and why that's what we experience. So I think a big part of online is the energy you bring in. I say to my clients, half an hour, you can meet half an hour, can be a little more, can be a little less. But if you're going to jump online, you can't do it from a low energy state. You got to slap yourself. You got to say, all right, I'm going to make the most of this night, even if I'm not feeling great. Maybe I'm going to cook some dinner. Maybe I'm going to put my audiobook on and I'm going to jump online. And I'm going to share some vibes for the day. If I've had a shitty day, do you know what? Just like I wouldn't go to my friend's birthday and say, oh, I had the worst day. Oh, this was lame. If I'm going out to my friend's birthday and I push myself through, I might say, you know what? Today was rough, if I'm being honest, but I'm making the best of it. I'm trying to look at it as a positive. I'm trying to be grateful for it. And I'm thinking, how could this grow me? Mm-hmm. You take that attitude to a social party. It's still honest, but you're bringing a good vibe, right? And you got to do the same thing online. So when you log on, be really conscious of your energy. And if you're in the energy where you're saying, hey, I wouldn't go out to my friend's birthday, don't jump online. That's not the energy you want to be logging in with.
I love that, right? Because it's really becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Certainly does, yeah.
You also just see, because we do not just selective listening, but selective reading, so that we just see certain things that match our unconscious expectation, which is whatever, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an introvert. I had to go out a lot to sort of get over some of that. But I always remember when I'm going out, I'm like, all right, you know what? If someone doesn't want to talk to me tonight, that's okay. But I'm not going to let it affect me. And often we get very affected, and we're sort of going to go into this a little bit later as well. We get a bit over-invested or affected. But, if you go out to a bar and you're or a networking event or something, you're trying to be social, a couple of people talk to you, and then one person how's your night? And he goes, oh yeah, it's all right, and walks away. You're like, all right, he was in a bad mood, but cool, gonna head back to my friends. Like, you don't really take it personally. You don't buy into it. And again, it's the same online. You really want to just have your energy be centered from you. If I'm going online, I'm sharing good vibes with the 10, 12, however many women are lucky enough to be online at that time. And then from there, I don't really care. Maybe they'll talk to me, maybe they won't. But I'm there for my energy and just sharing it around. And whether or not they pick up on it is kind of the least of my concern. It's just, I'm making a choice. I'm going to go out, even if I'm staying on my couch and not wearing pants. I'm going to go out tonight. I'm going to talk to some people, might meet some really great people, might not. That's all right. I'm doing this for me. I'm sharing my energy around for me. So again, if you're not in that state, maybe reconsider if logging in at night is your best option. Watch some Harry Potter instead.
I love it. Well, and also what you're talking about is actually more like a healthy center of self, right? Like versus actually focusing so much on the approval of the other, right? So many women are other focused versus self-focused.
100%. Yeah, 100%. You can't get, and again, we'll talk about this in a second, but point number 3 I was going to discuss was just getting over invested in what's going on. And the same way, sometimes you'd have a really great conversation at an event. And it might be like 10 minutes. You're like, this person's so interesting. And then the event kind of mixes around, or you don't ask for each other's number. And then you're like, oh shit, I left the event. I didn't even get that dude's number. I'll probably never talk to him again. And you're a bit bummed, but you're like, whatever, it happens. It's social life. Again, same thing online. Sometimes you'll have those great interactions and they don't necessarily go anywhere. And I really believe you've got to be okay with that, because you're there to share your own energy from your own center. A lot of people are going to love it, but some will randomly wander away. You don't know why they're out. Maybe he was like celebrating, maybe she was out celebrating her divorce. I'm like, this girl's great, I love her. And then her husband like texted her and was like, I really miss you. And she left the bar and never saw her again. You don't know what's going on with people. So you just can't get too over invested, especially before you've heard their voice, especially before you've heard their actual voice on the phone, on video call, or just met them in person. It's a nothing interaction until that, and you've got to treat it as such.
That's so great. And of course, most women that watch have an anxious, if not a fearful, avoidant attachment style. So anxious avoidant, right? So that is like part of the trait of the anxious, is like just reading, interpretation, story creation, anticipation.
Yeah. And I'm sure, you work through this with your clients, but that's where if online's bringing a lot of that stuff up for you, sometimes it can be really good practice to actually practice not being as invested on using online. But if it's super incredibly triggering for you, you might want to do the deeper work with someone like Antia or myself to eliminate that, or just to help it along. I'm a big believer, you do the work with a coach like one of us or another coach, and then you put the client in the field and you see how effective it truly is. So I love to get my anxious clients, online or offline, meeting men, and because that's the real road test, right? Are they not personalizing anymore? Are they still overthinking, or have they stopped overthinking? But if it's really emotionally intense, then you probably want to dial that back initially and do a bit of that work first because online just can trigger it so easily because there's a small amount of jackasses online. You won't necessarily run into that as much up front in person. So online can be a bit more triggering if that's something you're struggling with.
Yeah, totally. And I told you before, when I was single, I just really treated online like having fun. I mean, I
take a fun attitude to it. Yeah.
As an exploration, almost like an experimentation. Oh, I want to.
Right. Yeah, someone asked me, what am I up to tonight? I'm like, I'm cooking the greenest bean that I've ever cooked. This bean's going to be delicious because I'm sick of broccoli. I'm not eating any more broccoli. I've made a broccoli change in my life. Like, that's the caliber of my conversation. It's not, it's playful, and you will go into like a little bit of how to make it deeper, but you're not investing. So I'm not thinking this is a future wife, and you don't want to get too far down that path with a stranger on the internet that you've never looked at, spoken to, or heard from.
Which is actually like a good point, Mark, which is how deep or how shallow, like what should women talk about? Because sometimes I see screenshots and I'm horrified. I'm like,
what have you seen? What do you see on screenshots, Antia?
And you know what I mean? So, it's like, wow, wait, like there's no more room left. Why should he meet you? He knows everything about you.
Right. Oh, the whole revealing all of yourself. No, I think that's a big thing is you don't want to get into the pen pal over texting situation. I see one mistake I do see is asking too many questions as opposed to making statements. And that can be another symptom of social anxiety, is we're not used to having the attention on us. So we ask questions because questions get the other person talking. We don't have to reveal ourselves. But the problem is if we don't reveal ourselves, there's nothing for the other person to grab onto, to fall in love with, to know about us. So a correction for socially anxious clients is often to make more statements and share themselves. But it's not life story stuff. It might be one genuine thing about you and a couple of bantery points, but then get the fuck off text, because there are swarms and swarms of people who just want pen pals online. Like, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. It'd be at least 50% of people who log online want pen pals. Part of that is that emotional avoidance is a thing. Avoidant attachment styles are a thing. And for any person who wants to have a connection, but a very distant one, online's great. It doesn't put them into any of their fears. So, hey, I can sit online, get pen pals. So you've got to have boundaries with that. What was I saying there? But yeah, getting off text quickly. What do you talk about? It's really more how you talk about it, to be honest. The difference between, if a guy asks you, how's your day? The difference between my day is good, I read a good book, versus had the best day, I read this epic book and can't wait for dinner. I'm like eating the best pasta I've ever, like orgasmic level pasta. You've almost said the same thing, but the energy is night and day difference. And that's what men are really listening for, because online is so boring and so monotonous. And because most people are on their couch in a low energy state, men and women are listening for high energy states, people in a high vibe or high vibration. So the way you text, the way you communicate things demonstrates your energy and has you stand out. And that's how men are subconsciously deciding, who am I going to call? Who am I actually going to ask out on dates? Especially the guys that are on there for something serious. It's not really what you say, it's the energy you say it with. Once you're on the phone, it's a bit of a different story. You're back into who you are and you want to have a good vibe on the phone, but message is where it's the most obvious, because there's so little humanness in a text message. And most people are so bad at texting that if you can add energy to your text, and if you just sound more interesting than the other 9 monotonous people that are online saying, how's your day? Or I did this, or how about Mondays, eh? Like all that boring. You'll stand out like a candle, I don't know, like a mega standout firework. And that's what gets guys over the line to say, yeah, this one's interesting enough to call.
And it's so easy these days. I mean, there's like emojis, there's memes, there's you can send a photo of like a painting you just did. I mean, I don't really care for that matter.
Yeah, I wrote a whole book on it. Messaging Magic. It's like 100 pages of pretty much how to be interesting over text. So we can probably link that. But yeah, messaging is a bit of an art, and it's probably like, it's a bit more of I guess it's a skill to show your amazing energy over such a boring medium. And it's not a skill that necessarily comes naturally, because text is informational. So if you can communicate your energy and your personality over text, that's how you rise up above everyone else. It's not so much what you say, it's how you say it, your tonalities.
Yeah, totally. What about, before we even get to text, how about the profile itself? I mean, I see women write novels, and I'm like, just so you know, men have an attention span of a few seconds, and we don't know why you wrote this and what's the kitchen. So I'd love to hear, as a man, you know what I mean, your approach of like what kind of online profile you would like to read as a man, and you would think is interesting, is different. What would you say?
It's still about energy. It obviously depends what app or website you're using. Apps give you maybe 50 words. Bigger profiles, your Match.coms, your Plenty of Fishes, some of those give you bigger spaces. Again, it's about energy. And when I write a client's profile, typically what we'll do is we'll have a banging energy first paragraph of slightly lower energy, more real about her second paragraph, and then a what she's looking for third paragraph with a call to action at the end. So those paragraphs might be 75-ish words each. Again, it's bringing energy. And if you engage someone from the first line, they'll typically read most of it, especially if the energy keeps being good. Photos, men are visual as well. There's no getting around it. So photos is a big thing. And one thing you've really got to watch that clients slip into is the Ice Queen photos. And I have a lot of clients who come to me and they look pretty or hot in their photos, but there's also a sense of guardedness in their photos. There's not really, there's not an open, sometimes it's an open mouth smile that they need more of. Sometimes it's just more invitations. It's not sexual, it's like a friendliness. You do want to mix some of that in as well, because if you go sort of all closed mouth smiles, or if you go sort of all hot, you will, in my experience, attract a lot more of a narcissism leaning vibe, and guys who want more of the like, ooh, standoffish, cool woman, than the actual real cool chick. It's hard to explain. I've just seen it so many times that it seems to be a trend, is you've got to have photos that, again, same way in a bar, if there's a woman who is attractive, but also who looks inviting and sort of is smiling and warm and inviting, she's going to have there's a confidence about that energy that even the really sexy woman in the corner, who's a bit more standoffish, won't have. And the guys who are more like, oh, I want to play the game, I want to win that girl, they're more likely to go for like the hot woman person in the corner who's more standoffish. But the people that really want to connect are going to respond to the woman whose energy is a bit more open, a bit more, as I say, open mouth smiles, inviting. So in terms of photos, I love that. It's sort of 4:2, 4 face, 2 body. If you can get shots where you're mid pose, one thing I have my clients do to get this is think about a time that they were either with a friend or with their kids where it's just freaking funny. It's just like the funniest moment ever. And they were just laughing, and they just couldn't stop laughing in this moment. And have them, as they're doing it, as they're thinking about the moment, take like 10 selfies, just bang, 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 bang. I'm like, that's what we're looking for, is your spontaneous fun and vulnerability and happiness. There's not enough of that. So if you can get a photo or two with that, that's really great. That really is a great energy again.
And Mark, what does that do to a man when he actually sees a woman being in this like flirty, spontaneous, authentic, self-expressed?
It's just so inviting. And we're men, we're stuck walking around in like logical planning, how do we earn enough money to be good enough for whoever our future person is idea. And so when we get that, we lose ourselves for a second in that energy and in the feminine, and life stops being all high pressure and future thinking, and it becomes a little fun and a little sensual for just a second or two. So that's a very nice energy for a man to find in a woman. And as opposed to, oh, I could, get this hot standoffish person, which is really often he either wants to impress his mates or he wants the validation of the chase. That's a much more real, open and confident woman. And quality men are just going to see that openness and confidence and love it.
Yeah, totally. Because they're not afraid of their own emotions. So if that reminds them of emotions, I was like, that's great, because of a positive association. Now, another thing that I've seen you talk about last year, and I was like so like enticed by that, was this whole conversation. Should someone lie about their
God.
So they end up in this? I literally just got this question 2 days ago, Mark. I'm not even kidding you. I get this question all the time. And I'm like, it should be pretty self-explanatory, but okay. Well, my friends do it too. So the idea is you lie in the line so that you end up in this range, right? But then in the profile, you actually say your age. Like, what do you think about that, Mark? Like, as a man, as a coach?
I just think it's stupid, honestly. The problem with online, and this relates back to something we haven't talked about yet, which is overswiping. The problem with online is you get a lot of the transactional upgrade mindset people. And one of the ways you can quickly make online a horrible experience is to swipe like 50 guys. And I know you're probably thinking, well, I have to swipe 50 guys, Mark, but to like find a decent one, you'd never do that in a bar. Like you wouldn't actually treat people that way. So it becomes very inhuman and it's just not very nice. And guys can 100% fall guilty to this as well. And you end up in that pool where, oh, I can find someone with bigger boobs or like a better smile, or it's very transactional and like upgrade mindset. So there's a difference between volume of matches and quality of matches. And there's something that being honest says to the universe. If you've got a good energy that just peaks the quality of matches, that is no match for what you might get with the volume. Like if I'm a guy, just me as a guy, if I jump on your profile and read you lied about your age, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, I just feel, why would you not just tell the truth? It wouldn't, and maybe this is personal as well, it just would be so unresonant with someone like myself. I'm going to go, well, she told the truth. Like, she's obviously more confident than you. And the argument might be, oh, well, what if we didn't match initially? But there's always going to be, it's online, right? You'll meet more matches online in a week than your grandma met her whole life. So there's never a shortage of actual matches.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not a fan of that. I know it's worked for some people, and some people are like, hey, I did that, I got married. I'm like, yep, okay, it works for some people. I just don't agree with it personally. I just don't. I think it sends a wrong message from the get-go. It also sends an internally wrong message, and it focuses more on quantity of matches, and this kind of like upgrade mindset than it does quality of matches.
Yeah, so true. I mean, I agree with you on that. Never mind also this level of inauthenticity that a man may unconsciously think, oh, she lied about this, then maybe I can have a little...
Right, and then he goes, hey, I'm 6'2". He's like, actually, I'm 5'11". But he probably doesn't even put that. You find that out when you meet him. And it's the whole, like, I need to be something other than what I am. And I just don't like sending that message out there in any form. It just, I don't think it's confident.
What do you think about, like, you know, a lot of women I see that they'll write some sort of invitation to reach out, right? At the end of their profile, they're like, if you like what you read, reach out. Like, what do you think about that as a...
I don't mind that. I like that. Yeah, I don't mind a call to action at the end. I think there's nothing wrong with the woman messaging first. But yeah, introduce yourself sometimes with an exclamation mark. Or if you like what you read, say hi. I personally don't have a problem with that. I like that.
You know what, my last one was on my profile. I wrote, like, if you want to be part of my infinite cuisine of possibilities, be my guest. And then I had like the smiley face. And
fancy. I had a client recently do a job application one where she was like, if you'd like to apply for the role, please submit something like, please submit the most interesting thing from your day, and you may receive a phone call, or you may be invited for a phone call in response to your inquiry. She just framed the thing as a job interview, and guys loved it. She got a bunch of messages of guys like, I want to apply for the job. So you can have fun with stuff like that. But yeah, I like a call to action at the end because it's just, again, green lights. You say what you want, but then let the man actually do it.
Yeah.
Works wonders.
But so I'm sure the women were wondering when you're talking about this hot opening, right? Can you give us like an example of what you mean by this like hot opening? Because then there's sort of like the flow.
Like a hot opening line.
Like a hot opening line.
Whatever you think is funny for you at the time. Like if he's wearing a hat, you type in all caps, you're wearing a hat. But just put it in all capitals. Throw 5 photos in front of me and just we'll find something entertaining in them. Like just looking at the background now, what do we got? Anya, I'd be like, you have the whitest room. I love it. Is probably what I'd write. It's more like an expression of self than any particular thing you write. So whatever you notice, say it with some energy. Like someone's at a bar, and imagine if at the bar you had to assist you like a little diamond. Have you ever seen The Sims?
No.
Video game? You like control people, they have little diamonds above their head. But anyway, imagine you're at a bar and you're like, what do I say? But every guy at the bar had like a little diamond above his head with like a few facts in it.
Yeah.
One guy's like, I love canoes and my dog's name is Rover and I go to the beach on Sundays. You'd be like, I went canoeing once and I fucking fell out of the boat. I fell out of the boat and I had to swim to shore. It was the most embarrassing day. There's your opening line. Someone else has every third photo is red. You're like, red is not my color. We're never going to work. How could you have done this to me? You put red on 3 out of your 4 photos. I just don't think I can deal with you. You just find some sort of expression from something there. It doesn't have to make sense or be logical at all. It's an energy expression of you. Men are listening for the energy, not the content.
You know, I told
make statements. Don't use questions. Make statements.
Yeah, totally, right? I mean, I had like one client, I just told her, just say the volcano erupted in the most luscious, most beautiful.
Yeah. Just type Margaret Thatcher and see what happens. Like, it doesn't matter what you say. Entertain yourself. And sometimes it'll just be the funniest conversation. Other times it's like, I remember I had a dare once and it was like, talk to a few women, but start the conversation with an animal noise. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, this is awful. So I walked up to introduce myself to a few women by barring. I was like, Hi, how's it going? Two of them thought I was weird. Two of them thought it was funny, and we started chatting. So again, like Antia says, yeah, it doesn't need to be logical sense. Just say something, express something great with energy. And if it doesn't hit, who cares? It doesn't hit. You're there to just entertain yourself.
And Mark, like just as a closing, as we're coming to an end, do you have anything else that, you know, when I think about marketing, right, I think about polarization, right? Like the brands that polarize the most get the most attention. Is there anything else a woman can do to polarize in her online dating profile, in her, you know, whatever else, her presentation?
Yeah, when I think of polarization, I usually think of like opposite poles. I don't think there's a need, and sometimes that means being more controversial, putting out more controversial ideas. I just haven't seen a massive need for that. I think you will stand out so much by just having a good energy. My personal opinion would be you've probably got a better chance to polarize by when you get on the phone or when you're on the date. You know, speak your mind, share your ideas, share what you're passionate about, because you're pretty quickly, if you love animals and the guy works at an abattoir, you're like, yeah, maybe we're not gonna fit. But I would honestly say for online, if you're bringing the light, playful energy, you'll just stand out because no one does that. 95% of people who log in online are mopey. They're lying on the couch. They're like bored. There's this, it's like a Facebook scroll. I'm looking for something to ping me. So if you're the person that walked into that bar with a good energy, I don't think you'll have any trouble having men catch that energy.
Oh, so great. Well, thank you so much for all your wisdom, Mark, that you had to share today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So in addition to, I know we're going to post the chapter below this video, but talk about the other texting book you mentioned.
Yeah, so you can get the free texting book. It's 12 texts to make him yours. That's makehimyours.com.au/text. And then if you want, only if you want, there's, after you download the free one, there's an option to get the Messaging Magic mega book, which took me forever to put together, but it's basically everything you can imagine, from emojis to worded responses for every awkward situation, to how to make statements instead of questions. There's like 12 chapters. It's full of examples. Text is a bit of an art, but it's also fun when you get good at it because it's so easy to stand out and just have fun with it. So if you're interested, that one's $47, and then you can grab it from there. So just have a look at it, see if it suits you.
Awesome. Like, really highly recommend, ladies, getting it in conjunction, you know, getting the first chapter. I'll make him yours, and also, yeah,
check it out. And this, or if you want the whole book, you can grab that one on Amazon. So
all right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The audiobook's out soon too. The audiobook is going to be coming out soon.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I recorded it.
Oh, my
did a thing
on Audible. All right, ladies, hang on in there. We'll be all listening to Mark's sexy voice.
Oh,
when we're driving in the car.
Thank you, Antia.
Mark, all right, so the link is below this video, ladies, as usual. Thank you so much for being here today. I heard a lot of stuff I've never heard before when it comes to online dating, so I always love your innovative approaches. And for the ladies, I will talk to you next time. Take care.
Yeah.